So hello everyone. My name is Jennifer Tenasco. I'm 25 years old. I'm Algonquin from Kitigan, Zibi, Anishinabeg. And yeah, I'm currently a supervisor with the Anishinabe Odjibikan with Kyle, and we do archaeology in the territory. Did you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Oh, sure. Quay everyone. My name's Kyle Sarazin. I am from Pikwakanagan. I've been a part of the field school for the past 4 years, and I've been acting as a supervisor since the second year we've done it. Um, and thank you for inviting us to the London OAS meeting. It's the first time we've done this one, so um, hopefully we can. If there's new people who have, I heard that people have already heard our presentation before. So if there's anyone new, hopefully we can uh, tell them about our story, and it's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so we're Anishinaabe Odjibikan. We're a Indigenous-led archaeological field school in the National Capital Region, and we focus our work in Ottawa as well as like on both sides of the river, so Ottawa and Gatineau. And yeah, we've been able to grow our field school from 20 21, and I could get into the origins of our field school just to give you a background on how we got started and how we kept going. So the origin of our field school originally it comes from the finding of the stone knife on Parliament Hill, the mokomon, and it was found in 2019 during the rehabilitation of Center Block, and yeah, they were digging for that, and they came across this knife, and it's the first federally recognized artifact um, that comes from Parliament Hill. So it was a really big deal, and it was a really big deal for our nations as well because well, just to for our for our nations and things like that. But yeah, and so after that, there was meetings with PSPC and uh, which is Public Service and Procurement Canada, as well as meetings with our leadership from Kitigan Zibi and leadership from Pikwakanagan. And so it was our counselor actually, Doug Ojic, who kind of got everyone together um, with um, with people from PSPC and other organizations such as the NCC and different people were there. And it was actually at the Inspire event that was held in Ottawa, and he just got everyone together, and he just kind of proposed the idea. And then this was right before COVID, and then unfortunately COVID happened, and then it was supposed to happen in the summer of 2020, but because of COVID, it kind of got pushed back. So we had officially started our field season in August of 2021, and for our first year, we were in the field for 4 weeks or 4 to 5 weeks, and then we had uh 3 weeks of lab work. So essentially, it was a 8 week kind of project our first year, and we um had started in August, and we didn't get a lot of people, and it was just kind of like we kind of had situated like the core group of us, so myself, Kyle, Jenna, and Drew, um, and as well as other people as well. Um, and so yeah, and for our first year, we were guided by Pierre de Rosier, who is the he's the curator of archaeology at the Museum of History. So yeah, and that's how we met Pierre our first year, and we worked with him. And then in the second year we continued again. We had an off season. We didn't work that season. We didn't work the winter months, and then in 2022, um we were working with the NCC and their lead archaeologist there, which was Ian Badgley at the time. And then we continued again the second year after that in 2023. It was similar to that year as well. And then for our past work, we had um, a bit of a bit of uh like a misstructure. So we had went back to Pierre de Rosier, or we were back under the guidance of Pierre de Rosier, and we had gotten help with from the NCC as well, and so that's kind of how our origin and timeline has been, and how we've developed and how we've learned over the years. But yeah, in the picture here is the mokomon found on Parliament Hill. It was photographed by CCI, the conservation Canadian Conservation Institute here in Ottawa, and they had photographed it and made replicas for us and our communities and the organizations that were involved as well. So yeah, and then just who is Anishinabe Odjibikan? We are comprised of the two communities of Kitigan Zibi and the Algonquins of Pikwakanagan, and we're funded under through the Strategic Partnership Initiative, which comes from Indigenous Services Canada, and that's how we get funded, and with the help of PSPC and also the NCC as well when we were being guided and uh, given land access to the lands there and the archaeological sites. Um, so yeah, and it was we had pretty good numbers during our seasons, and we've had people come and go like throughout our summer work, and some people have stayed during our off season as well to help with cataloging and things like that. um so yeah, they're just a list of our people. But so we've had 23 participants in total throughout the years, and then in the off season we usually have like around 12 to 13. I think right now we have 13 people who are working just on and off throughout this off season. But yeah, it was pretty good numbers, and we've been able to grow and gain people and their their like assets as well, because I believe one of the participants from Pikwakanagan, Jade Rogers Baptiste, she was able to kind of create this logo for us, and we kind of used her strength in digital design to create a lot of our online posters and art and things like that. So yeah, we just kind of have been working together, and it's been a great turnout so far. Um, so yeah, and then here's just some pictures of our previous seasons when we were in the field and then when we were in the office with the NCC. So yeah, and yeah, and then I'm gonna hand it off to Kyle, like, because I think he's gonna talk about the our work. Yeah.
Thanks, Jennifer. So yeah, just to kind of speak about the work that we have done so far. Um, at the start of this little, it's just a little list of some of the sites we've worked on. But the start is the Aral project, which is the assessment and rescue of archaeological legacy. This is a project that was started by the NCC, which was intended to protect and preserve the archaeological legacy and the resources that are being eroded away each year within the National Capital Region. So this is something that every year the NCC has been surface collecting uh, along each known archaeological site in this complex, and they're tracking how much material is coming up each year, and then at the same time, while they're on site, they're seeing like the how much erosion is happening to the shoreline. They're seeing like trees falling down from year to year. trees that were used as landmarks are now, they've tipped over. The landmark has changed. The landscape has changed. So it's a big issue that's happening there, actually, in the National Capital Region. Um, One of the biggest issues is that there is hydroelectric dams on both sides of the river. Um, if you're in the center of the city, it'd be on both sides of you. So that keeps the water level artificially high. It allows the water to freeze higher along the shoreline. When you're getting when that all thaws in the spring, you're getting a lot of material dragged out back into the water. And what we had seen, just because we had started post COVID, what we had seen was firsthand how, because everybody was back and getting out onto the water, they were using their watercraft. There was not a lot of safety or protections put in place by like OPS or whoever should be in charge of that, protecting that no wake zone along those shorelines. That just wasn't there. So um, yeah, I can't stress enough how big of an issue the erosion is for us, and in terms of protecting these sites as well and preserving it for future generations. It's one of our biggest challenges that we face. But to move on from that, some of the other work that we've done is we worked at BIFW 39, which was near Champlain Bridge on the Gatineau side. Um, we ended up naming the site, or coming up with coining a name for the site, and we called it Mikinak which is I think it's like turtle shell, right, Jennifer?
Turtle Rock.
Yeah, Turtle Rock. Because at this site, there, like nearby to the site, there are these stromatolites, which are fossils, and one of the big things you see in when you go on, you can walk right onto them when the water's low enough, but you can see it, and they'll form into these kind of spiral patterns if they're flat on the ground. And besides that, we worked at Vincent Massey Park. That was where we were in our pilot year. Um, we were fortunate enough in 2023 to go and do work at one of our communities in Pikwakanagan. We worked at what is now being developed into a water treatment plant site. So um, the work had undergone a stage 3 beforehand, and we wanted to make sure that there was some mitigation being done on the site. So before any development happens, because we had this opportunity, it was a unique opportunity. So we were able to provide a service for our community through this great program that we have. And it was a great way to have members from Kitigan Zibi as well to come and visit, when most times you might only come up to visit for a powwow or if you have family. So it was really nice to be able to share the community a bit with our other members. We also did work in Gatineau Park at the Lac Philippe, where they were planning on putting a multi-use pavilion. What we had found there, with along with the NCC, was there was a large number of quartz artifacts, and so this would have been a relatively older site, just because of the material. And that was pretty good. That was our first experience with like kind of taking on a contract or being like asked, like contracted to do work. So it was a nice first time experience, which would eventually lead into later down on the list, where we have JPMP and the Alexandra Bridge project, where we were able to send uh, smaller groups, partial teams, to go and work with other consultants on these larger projects. Um, it gives a bit more experience with the historical side of archaeology, because most of the archaeology that we're doing is on pre-contact sites. So it was a good experience to be able to work amongst like 18th century, 19th century foundations, and like to see the artifacts that are coming up. We were finding like ink wells and like bone brushes and stuff like that. So it's just it was nice to be able to expand that and not be solely onto the pre-contact stuff. Um, and then just 2 other sites we had worked on this past year, which was BFW 13 and BFW 21, one of which is a known quarry site for the national material of this area, Kitigan Church, and the other was a known portage site. And in over the course of us working at this site there had been a discovery made, completely unrelated to where we were working, but it was nearby, and one of our members was able to actually find another material site. So we're in the process now of kind of getting that registered with the Quebec ministry, I guess. So yeah, this is just kind of shows you a bit of the sites that are here in the National Capital Region, specifically between Ottawa and Gatineau along the river. You can see a lot near the top is where the major complex is, where the most of the concentration of sites are. But all along the river and on the islands, and even like deeper inland, you'll see there are many more sites in this area. And because of the erosion, like I had mentioned, a lot of the sites have probably been already lost to the water with how much shoreline has been lost. Like, talking about thousands of years and even more rapidly in the last 100 years. Um, this is a very important spot for this region. Next slide.
Hello? You're gonna confuse. You're confusing, and you're gonna confuse me at the
Oh,
same time.
sorry. Oh.
And yeah, so Kabeshanon is the name that we have for this complex of archaeological sites. It means gathering place in our language in Algonquin. Um, it was a coin first termed, or first, it was a term first coined by Gilbert White Duck, but for a different site, the Kabeshanon Minitig, um, which is Victoria Island, I believe. And there's like, there's been a lot, and we're not the first persons to kind of first talk or like first work on these sites, and there's been a lot of groundwork laid down before us from our before like people before us, and a lot of gone into this. This is kind of like the the child of like many years of labors of love, next slide. And this is just again like another example of kind of where the concentration of sites are. These blue dots, I believe, are positive find spots. And this is around the kind of the main beach. I wouldn't call it the main beach, but it's like one of the most heavily occupied areas. It's BIFW 18. It's where the NCC does their public dig every year. It's very bountiful. It's very important to use as a teaching tool for the public. And to be able to describe to them, like, you need to be careful when you're on these sites. You need to be protecting. You need to be mindful of where you are. So that's is a very good thing that the NCC does every year. Next slide. So yeah, so this is just kind of going into the area as a whole. The location, it's located at the confluence of three rivers: the Ottawa River, the Gatineau River, and the Rideau River. Um, Rivers were the major highways back before pre-contact. So um, most of the trade is being facilitated by these riverways and these watersheds. And when you have such a central location in the direction of three rivers, it's very easy to become a trade hub, and to have all these exotic materials be found here in the capital is kind of proof of that. It's currently managed by the NCC. So most of the work that we've been doing has been on NCC managed lands because we're able to do that. There's no federal legislation regarding archaeology. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It lets us to be able to work and do this work, which is important, but it also leaves these sites and areas that are on federal lands to not be protected or to not have that legislative protection. And yeah, so most of the sites are located across from Parliament Hill. Just a brief history of the area. It's been seasonally inhabited by Anishinabeg for many generations. It's used as a summer. It was before contact. It was used as a summer gathering place because in the winter you would break into smaller bands of people and you would go to your hunt camps and kind of enjoy the winter and then come back and make familiar relations, reconnect with people, trade, all that type of stuff. And then the center of it's the center of a vast trade network in eastern Turtle Island. You have people following the Ottawa River north to get to the Great Lakes. And you have them following it east to get to like eastern Canada. You get the coast and Labrador, Newfoundland, all those areas. And we had like trade partners and allies in each direction because of this these waterways. Being at the confluence allowed for easy travel and access via waterways. It is mentioned and spoken of in our oral histories. The Kitigan Zibi community has a book called the Since Time Immemorial, and it's a collection of stories that are kind of been collected as a part of their oral history tradition. And it describes us Algonquin people kind of following the recession of the Champlain Sea into the area. And as we would move in further, like from the south, we came up north into what is now our traditional territory. Kibeshanon contains a large collection of pre-contact archaeological sites in Algonquin and Anishinabeg territory. It's 13. It's the most in the region. I think the next closest would be Pointe de Brisson, which is near Montreal. And that is a St. Lawrence Iroquois site, I believe. And a place of seasonal gathering to renew and sustain kinship amongst Anishinaabe and other nations. Next slide. I don't think we have too much left. This is a graphic many have probably seen. This was developed by the National Capital Commission's archaeology program. And it was meant to just kind of show the trade networks that we've kind of assumed have been created because of the material that we're finding in the National Capital Region. We're finding stuff from like number 3, that would be like Hudson's Bay Lowland shirt. We're finding stuff from Estassini, Quebec, Labrador. We're getting Rama shirt. There's all these different materials that are not found here, and it's either we have trade partners and they're trading with people even further away, or they're making the entire journey themselves. It was so vast at the time, and it's just we have the evidence now, or we have the evidence is left for us, so these assumptions can be made. Next slide. I just want to go over the importance of stewardship of archaeological legacy and kind of the meat and potatoes of what this program is trying to do for us. We're emphasizing a community-based approach that prioritizes knowledge and knowledge transmission from elders and knowledge keepers, and fostering a holistic perspective in archaeological work. We're asserting Anishinaabe presence in a predominantly colonial field by creating space for cultural practices, beliefs, protocols, and while contributing valuable insights from Anishinaabe worldview. One of the important things that we take is time. We have to give time to what we're doing. We have to give time to do ceremony, to understand that we are taking from the earth when we dig, and we are accepting a gift that's been left from our ancestors. So it's important for us to take that time and to be able to implement our practices as well. Establishing a framework for meaningful engagement and consultation with Anishinaabe communities and ensuring their voices are heard, respected, and valued. I think through this program and through our work, we've made many connections with people in this field of work. Many consultants we've met with, many people who are trying to help us along the way. And I think we're making meaningful kind of changes in the field, at least in our small network of people we know. It's great, honestly. It's every time I meet a new person who wants to help us, and I think I'm so grateful for it. And then strengthening connections to the land, culture, and history to honor the past, enrich the present, and preserve knowledge for the future generations. I know this is a big part. A lot of our members are urban Indigenous youth, So they're not always they don't always get the chance to be able to be on the land to make connections. And we're through our work each summer, we're always on the land, we're always on the river, and there's always time to make that connection. So I think that's a big part of it. And I think speaking towards the erosion I was talking about, like a lot of the current goals of ours is to become established, maintain the work that we are doing, and then to try and find a way to actually protect these sites. This is a big project. Next slide. Okay, so that's all I have for my part of the presentation, and I'll give it back to Jennifer to kind of outro us. Kichimi for listening. I hope it wasn't too boring.
Yeah, so we just wanted to say Kachibigwech for the OAS, the London chapter, for inviting us to present. And yeah, and we're thankful for everyone involved and everyone who has helped us in our journey of our work. So miigwech, thank you.